I'm a comedian. That's why Twin is laughing. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Skip, aka Skip and Tosh, here back with another video to discuss the Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four run, which also includes the Future Foundation run that he did with himself, Nick Tragata on art. We also had Andre Lima Araujo in there, and another artist that I got to double check. That might be Mike Choi, but we'll double check because I'm going to get everybody their respect. Before I check on those names, let's talk about some other names that you're already familiar with. Ash on Comics, Mr. Vaughn Comics. How are you doing today?
Howdy, howdy. Sitting here sipping some whiskey. About to talk about some of the best Fantastic Four comics that Marvel's probably ever done, and saying my goodbyes.
Yep.
Yes, but we only say goodbye to say hello, so we will be moving on to the next Hickman story. But not before we have one more stream wrapping this whole run up with a special guest. But in the meanwhile, we got
Oh,
another
that's
special
right.
I
guest.
forgot about the
We
special
have one
guest.
more time.
You forgot about the
Oh, I
special
forgot
guest.
it.
Yes, that's okay, because this one, for everyone, just to let you know, this one will be a slightly more truncated edition of this, but that's okay because you're gonna get to feast when we have our special guest and when we do a free for all on the entire series. But we got to introduce my twin Zach. Say what's up to the people.
What's up, everybody? Hope y'all had a great Christmas and hope y'all are getting ready for a happy new year. Yeah, I'm over here crying one or two sad tears because this is the final volume of Future Foundation. And I know they brought it back for a mini series a few years ago, but come on, it's not Hickman. Who are we kidding? Come on. But yeah,
Hickman, it
so
is
good.
not, dude. Hickman, it is
I,
not. But that's all right.
who
You
needs
know,
Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters or Strange Academy? This should be the Marvel school book.
hey, you know what? I'm gonna say something blasphemous in the presence of my buddy Ash, but it's hard for me to disagree. I really like the Future Foundation and those kids. But that's all right. Much respect to the Xavier School for gifted youngsters.
Yeah, but I don't feel any offense because I know that if anyone else were to write this Future Foundation and these kids, it would not live up to what you guys are holding it in
That's very
esteem.
true.
So to me, I'm agreeing. I love it too, but I know it's because Hickman's magic. And without
Mm-hmm.
Hickman's magic, it wouldn't survive.
Yep.
That's my
It's
take.
like when they did Jaws 2, but they didn't get Spielberg to direct. It's not going to live up to Jaws 1. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter if you have the same share, the same actors and stuff. It's not going to live up to it. You're just going to get a bunch of kids
It's kind
screaming
of
on
like
a
Indy
boat.
5 with no Spielberg.
Yep.
Oh wait, never mind. We have to wait. We have to wait to actually see that.
Yes, we will, but we don't have to wait to talk about this story. So let's jump right
That's
into
true.
it. First impressions of going through Future Foundation Volume 4, last book of the Jonathan Hickman run, Ash. How did it hit you? Initial thoughts.
Uh, it hit me with, I don't know if nostalgia is the right word. It hit me the way a good epilogue should, where it just sort of like let the taste linger a bit. Um, it doesn't open up any new cans of worms. There's no big epic storytelling. It's just almost like little vignette stories of these characters that are like ripples in the pond after you throw the stone. And um, I found them very, for the most part, very charming and just um, both fun in tone and um, like pulling on the heartstrings. And it just felt good. Like, like after getting that story, I'm glad that I'm glad that Hickman did it this way. At first I was a little apprehensive knowing that like, oh, the big epic story is all done and we're just gonna now get some like one-off story. Like, I don't know, but yes, they are like one-off stories, but they're very related to what happened, and in fact, they're dependent on what these aren't standalone. I don't think you could come into the story and read these and just be like, oh yeah, like they are very much informed by the big story that we read through previously. So I found myself very much liking these, and with this book in particular, this volume, loved that we got quite a healthy dose of Nick Dragata's art,
Mm-hmm.
who I find is so fantastic. I almost like lament, like wish these stories could just go on, because he
Right.
captures these kids
Yes.
and so great. Um, and I was noticing it. I've been attracted to his art since reading through the East of West storyline, but I at that time I was like, oh, he has a really cool eye for like angles and just unique viewpoints, and he has a cool sense of design and scenery and things like that. But I was noticing this time, like, there's something about the way he does eyes.
Yes.
There's
You,
so
oh,
much
you're noticing
expression
the
in the
eyes.
eyes.
Yes.
And yes, he's got a unique style. I think that a newcomer might come along and just be like, "Oh," and maybe cringe their nose a little bit and maybe kind of go, "This isn't what I'm used to." But I think if you give it a chance, you'll warm up to the art style, because it's not your standard Marvel or DC comic art. It's definitely unique. It's something you're more likely to see in the indies. But now that I'm warmed up to it and
Mhm.
used to it, like I embrace it with open arms in a Marvel book. And like I said, with these stories being so character driven, the the way he handled that, I can't I wouldn't want anyone else doing these. Except for one exception that I could, if you said he had to substitute anyone, um it's what's his name? Arajo.
Yeah.
Um
Andre Lima Arajo.
Andre Lima Arajo. His story in this, I won't put the cart before the horse, but his story in this, I'm a big fan. I want to see him and Hickman collaborate on something in the future and do, because I've already liked him from before on that um, Righteous Search for Vengeance,
Mhm.
and I was curious. I knew that I was going to get to see, and his style is visually different, but he brings to the same skills that I loved. And overall, this whole book, it was for me a feast of art. Like I loved that I got these cool stories that felt meaningful and touching, and also with art that I just love to go through, and I'm just flipping through the pages again and just looking through, and I'm like, oh, this is what comics should be. And yeah. Anyways, that's my impression.
Yeah, it was so just to catch up, I need to put some respect on Gabriel Walta's name because I forgot that's the other artist. It's mostly Nick Dragata on issues 17 and 18, Gabriel Walta on issue 19. And then issue 20 and 21 is Dragata again. And then, oh, and issue 23, but issue 22 is Andre Araujo, aka Andre Lima Araujo. Definitely most recently from A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance fame, notoriety. I guess we can call it notoriety. I loved that book, Ash and I, obviously. Um, talked about it and covered it. And it is really cool though. For I would say for Nick as well, and even for Gabriel Walta, just to see their style, with indie stuff compared to, how they come back and they approach work for the big two, be it DC or Marvel. and how they tailor their art, especially an issue of Action Comics 1050 just came out with art by Nick Dragata, and again, interesting to see him tailor his style to DC for a Superman book. But literally just a few months ago, I saw his more known indie style in Jason Aaron's, the falling in love before the end of the time or whatever the heck it's called. So just in a span of 7 weeks, it's just so interesting to see him in modern day go from two different styles that he's done in the same year just to adapt. And that's the cool thing about artists, and we don't always get that, especially at the big two. You do have to follow them around to see what their more tailored and tempered stuff is for the big two, who has a little more restriction, versus indie where they can go full bore and you know let you know how they really feel. How do I feel about this run? First impressions. Yeah, youthfulness. I agree with Ash. Also, like storylines. And a bunch of like the stories weren't necessarily told in sequential order, and there is a lot of like non-parallel storytelling. Or excuse me, or a lot of parallel storytelling and non sequential kind of out of order storytelling, which isn't uncommon for Jonathan Hickman. But in this manner, for the story still to connect enough and then to go back and connect to the main storyline, which is already wrapped up, and still add to it, um, it's just beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see that he really had plans beyond just let me get to the end of this. He was invested, so much so that Marvel editorial, Tom Brevoort was like, "Oh, you have more to say, and we've already hired you for these other books. You want to use some of the rest of this run to set that up? You've earned it. Maybe I can't give you Dale Eaglesham, and maybe I can't give you Steve Epting or whatever. But at the time, I can give you these up and comers. I can give you these whippersnappers. I can give you that Nick Dragata guy that you worked with. Um, Gabriel Walter said he's in for an issue, and there's this other guy, Andre Lima Arajo, lives in another country. You probably never heard of him before. He's got some really nice lines, kind of like Dragata. You can tell he's inspired by manga. I can give you those guys. I'll take them. And yeah, what we get from it is we got one ending to the F4 story, but the way that he ends the Future Foundation story and how it's tied to the Fantastic Four story, it's just very thoughtful and handled with care. You can really tell that he cared. On that note, Twin, first impressions.
Man, I think I enjoyed this a little bit more than his final Fantastic Four issues. Honestly, like Ash had said, it's a good epilogue. It is an end cap. It kind of ties up some loose ends, because reading through his big Hickman story, like you might be thinking, well, what happens with the Inhumans, or if you're reading through his final Fantastic Four issues, what happens with the AIM Island and all. He ties it up really neatly, so it can continue, and those stories could grow, but he puts a really good end cap on it. And yeah, just like, because it is centered mainly around the Future Foundation and the kids, so there is this whimsical nature to it, kind of this childlike nature to it, which I really like. I've grown to love a bunch of these characters like Bentley and Franklin and Leech, and even Spider-Man, with his, like, him being in this vicinity and on this team. It's all just clicked for me. It's I'm really, like I said, I'm sad to see it end, but it is such a good way to end a run. You could, like you said, he Hickman handled it with care, and yeah, it is, you know wouldn't want to. I don't know if I'd want to see anybody else take on Future Foundation, but I wouldn't mind it if Hickman and Dragata did a little reunion and came back to write a few more issues. I know normally they save that for books that are much much older, but yeah, if they wanted to bring them back, I'd be all for it. But this was
Can we bring
definitely
back Jonathan Hickman every like decade or so to fix when Marvel screws up afterwards?
Hickman will
Like,
become he's like he'll be like Marvel's repairman, you know.
you got the
Goes
Dan
on for
Slott
every few years.
Fantastic Four, and now the Ryan North Fantastic Four. It's like, okay,
I don't
bring in the Hickman.
Warm
I
the
don't
We
Hickman
got to
up,
reset.
everybody. Bring him
I don't
in.
I don't hate the Ryan North Fantastic Four so far. So far, it's serviceable. It's not Hickman, but it's not bad. But I mean, nothing. I mean, let's be honest. Nothing is going to live up to the Hickman Fantastic Four. I know some folks say maybe John Byrne or Mark Wade, but yeah, I mean, nothing's going to live up to the Hickman Fantastic Four. That's just an impossible goal, I think, at this point. But uh, but yeah, this was amazing. And I told Skip earlier in the Discord, I've been hearing y'all talk about Nick Dragata, East of West, all this stuff. And his stuff, I liked certain panels of it, but I was kind of on the fence. This has sold me on. I am now on the Nick Dragata fan wagon. So y'all got me on Brubaker first, and now you got me on
I would
Dragata.
totally buy an ongoing FF book with Nick Dragata.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Even if Hickman didn't write it, just to see him draw these characters again.
Yep. Totally.
Straight up. I'm right there with you. You know what? It's not outside of the realm of possibility, but we'll live in the now and we'll bask in what we have been able to experience in the meantime. But okay, well, thanks. I mean, for everybody for contributing. Those are pretty much our initial thoughts about the series, and now we're gonna take you into the next phase of it. We're gonna dive into a favorite moment, a meaningful moment that stuck out to us about the run. I am very much with my twin Zach. Probably my favorite part about the whole last Future Foundation series is the fact that we got to spend more time with the Moloid kids. Because
Yes.
I love the Moloid kids so much. And I love how they love the bin.
This is my one gripe with Hickman. We've had these Moloid kids for this entire run so far, but we get the most material and it feels like the most dialogue from them right here at the end. That's my one gripe. It's a minor gripe, but it's yeah.
I mean, it was a perfect run. If only we could have gotten more Moloid kids. That's really the only thing that was missing. And one of my my moment, oh gosh, my moments deal with the Moloid kids. I am going to share them both because one of them doesn't have, it's not a focus on the story. It's just what one of the Moloid kids is doing. What I believe it's Meek, what Meek is doing. But before we get into that, um, Twin, I'm gonna have you jump right ahead and take it. If you tell me what issue that it was in or whereabouts it was, I can
Shoot.
jump over there. So
It's the
You better
gosh,
not pick mine.
I that's the thing.
No
I
pressure.
mm,
see, and there are several. Oh God, y'all put me on the spot first. There's like I can think of three. Um,
did you want Ash to go first then? If you want to narrow it down a
yeah,
little bit
Ash,
more.
why don't you go first? I've got three that I can pick from. So if you pick mine, it's no loss. So, but if I pick yours, then I'm gonna feel bad.
No, I was just yanking you.
All right.
There's others I could pick, but this one for some reason just really stands out to me. And I don't have the exact page. It's probably around the 130s. It's in the Andre Lima Araujo book.
Okay.
It's where they come to the wizard in his cell,
Yep, that's a
and
good one. That was one of my three, so I'm glad you
I
went.
don't have it prepared to display, Skip. So I need you to
Oh, I got you. No
do it.
problem.
I'm sorry. Normally I
No,
do, but
well, it's
What
just
you're
fine.
looking for, it's like page 124 is
124. I got
when
it.
they get to the wizard cell. Yeah, on Comixology.
124 it is. All right, so they're getting to the wizard, and what's happening with the wizard?
and so, Mr. Fantastic is there and he's just telling him like you don't have to do anything you don't want to, and he goes in ahead of time and he's talking to the wizard and he's telling him that the wizard you're sick and I've always wanted to help you, but I don't know if we can. And then we see Val trying to like talk him into like you can do this. And we know from the FF issue that we covered in the previous vid, um, that we've already kind of seen this. This is kind of another angle from a same scene that we
Mm-hmm.
saw where Bentley confronts the wizard. But what I liked about this extends, it goes beyond where the Fantastic Four, where it ends in the Fantastic Four. Bentley is just kind of like standing there, like thinking, what's he going to do? And then it's like cut, and we don't know. So here we actually find out. And I really like that. I love when you can now go, oh, here's more to that story and from a different
Yes.
angle.
Yes.
And so Bentley decides he's going to go in. He's got the helmet. We know it's a helmet because it was spoiled from before. And he's just basically, I'll be right outside. And we see the wizard, and Andre just captures like the cartoony level of insanity uh, in the wizard with his facial expressions. And basically the wizard's just telling him like, you're me, and you can't be anything but me. Basically, even going so far as to tell Bentley like, I'm your god. Like every man has a god, and I'm yours, and everything. And yeah, you can see there perfectly just how he's um, yeah. I command you to put the helmet on. Put it on. And I just love that freakish level of insanity. And we turn the page, and I love Hickman understands the page turn. This is like, I feel like a lost art in comics. You turn the page, and we see Bentley kicking his dad in the crotch. Get bent, dad. And then he just like walks away, and Andre Lima captures it in such a subtle, perfect fashion where he's kind of like kicking the helmet, but also like, to me, it almost like I can see like he's strutting away, like
Mm-hmm.
not just walking away. And then we see Valve's face peering around the corner. All of it's so bright. The art in this is so great. Um, and the moment is is reaches its pinnacle where Reed says to him, um, "Look here, Dr. Whitman. If you remember, I made you a promise that I would raise Bentley as my own. And while he, being no different from you, would become something better. I must say the boy has not disappointed. So here's my word from on high. We are not slaves to our nature, Dr. Whitman. You can be whatever you want to be." And I just love that moment because this was hinted at from the very beginning of FF,
Mm-hmm.
with Bentley, his storyline, and with Reed telling the wizard, like he's going to be something better. I'm going to take him, and he's going to be better. Um, and you're just like, huh. And then the whole time, Hickman portrays Bentley as this like little sadist kind of like, I'm evil, like, and you're like, oh, he's just gonna grow up to be the wizard. Like he's no different than, is like father like son. Like and the whole time, like he takes you down that line, and even in that FF epilogue where the wizard's like, "No, you put the helmet on," and then Bentley's looking at it, and you cut away, and you're like, "Oh no, like what's gonna?" And it's an ambiguous ending. But here, we get that satisfaction that Bentley actually is different, and he may talk a talk, but he's a kid, and he made different choices, and his fate is not decided for him. And then there's kind of a cute moment afterwards where he and Val hold hands, and he makes like a comment as they're like staring in the sun. "I think I love you." To which she responds, "I'm 3 years old. Don't ruin this for me." Okay. And it's just so cute. Like you can't
Yeah.
help but smile, like staring at the sun. And it's just like the end. And I was like, that's such a perfect little ending. And
Yep.
it's even better if you read it. I mean, I only just summed it up like really simple, but yeah, that was my big impact of the whole series.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was everything that you kind of mentioned about it, they're like it, especially the page turn because Bentley, although Bentley was, grown from a test tube and all that, Whitman, the wizard is his father. And of course, a lot of us usually, a lot of writers usually draw from real life, whether it's something that you've experienced or you've watched someone else experience. So naturally, in real life, kids come from their father's gonads. So for
Mm-hmm.
him to kick his dad in the jewels where he came from and then kick the helmet very much put emphasis on the fact like screw you, this is a new beginning and I'm not going to do it the way that you did it. I'm not going to fall victim to the things that were your stumbling blocks. I'm going my own way. And the symbolic the symbols that were brought to life and rendered within the art by Andre Lima Araujo just get that whole point over that whole point across in an excellent way. And I like what you said about the strutting too, like him strutting away and in stride, like he doesn't have to double his steps or shuffle. He just kicks that helmet in stride, smooth, like it's a new day, it's a new dawn, and I'm going my own way. Right on, man. Very, 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 very good one. All right, twin. You still
All
got so
right.
much to pull from. What you got
I,
for
I
me?
I do. I do. I think I've narrowed it down. All right.
Okay.
So it's one of the last stories in the volume,
Okay.
and I can give you. So it's what I don't even know what the issue is. It's the one where it's I call it Adult Franklin's Goodbye. It's the very next issue actually.
Okay. The last one.
So yeah, the last one. So adult Franklin, future Franklin, he's getting ready to leave and he, go back and continue his mission, what he's supposed to be doing. Yeah, it's just called Run. And so, I won't go in detail throughout the entire thing, but it's like, okay, he says goodbye to future Val. Then he goes and he takes, present day Franklin and Leech into the closet where Franklin has like this whole universe that he's imagined. And it's kind of like his farewell tour, he has one last little playtime with Franklin and Leech, and then he waves goodbye to Val while she's teaching the class. Takes Ben and Johnny out for drinks and tells them one of these futures that was possible, but I think it's changed now. But it's the last goodbye that he does before he leaves, and it's on page skip. It starts on page 150.
All right.
And
150.
yeah, so future Franklin, he's talking with Reed and Sue, and Reed's like, "Oh, you have to leave now," and Franklin's like, "Yeah, I've been here too long. If I stay longer, there's going to be repercussions." There's this fun moment where Sue's like, "Oh, is it because like two people can't occupy the same space and time for more than and both Reed and Franklin are like, "That's not how it works."
Yeah, that
Right.
was. I liked that
So
part. Yeah.
that was kind of funny. But it's the next page, and he's talking to Reed and Sue about how Franklin's going to grow up and he's going to start manifesting his powers more and more, and how great it's going to be. And he's hugging his parents, and Sue has this panel where she's like, having a, being a parent, having kids is a constant war between uncertainty and hope, and you live in fear and there are doubts, and she wants to know if, she's like, I want to know, were we, and Reed basically, he just asked the question as Sue stumbling, he just wants to know, he's like, did we do a good job? And Franklin pauses for a second and he says, a perfect one. And
Mhm.
because I mean, I know, and I'm not a parent myself, but I have friends who are parents, and that's a big thing, because everyone has like their own ideas or methods, and they're all just like, what's the, how to be a good parent or a perfect parent. And this is, I think, one of the more heart touching, like, Sue and Reed moments as they're talking with Franklin here. And Franklin, he's become like this almost godlike figure in this universe. And because his parents raised him, perfectly, he says. So that just really struck a chord with me. That was it. This was a movie. This is where, like, it gets a little dusty, and I'm wiping away my, something in my eye at this point. It's just a really heartwarming scene. Then he, goes off into the future or wherever he goes, and Sue gives him a little kiss on the cheek, and then it ends. Uh, yeah, just such a great moment. And and I like this art. I don't think this isn't Dragata.
This is
Is
Dragata.
this, oh, this is Dragata? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is, I mean, Dragata's art in this one was just fantastic. I think the way he capped the eyes, Ash mentioned the eyes earlier. I like his uses of the eye throughout the entire issue, not just this couple of panels right here, but just the stuff he does. I mean, I'm just really sold on Dragata now, y'all. I'm sorry it took me so long to get here, but here I am.
That's
But
all right. If you would have
really,
went. Mhm.
oh no, I was just gonna say real, like, just a heartwarming and I know, as we get into, like, Avengers and Secret War comes down the pipe, and everything, I know there is a little bit more future front, like, this isn't the last time that we see him. But yeah, it was just real, and it's not like, and like I was saying, it's a good epilogue, it's a good ending point, because if you just stop reading Fantastic Four, or after the big old epic story that we had, you might be like, oh, what do future Franklin and Val just stay in the present timeline? No, this is a nice little end cap. He's got a, there's a status quo that they kind of have to return to. Future people go back to the future, and so on. But
Yeah, he cleans up well.
yes, that's it. He cleans up, or he ties up the loose ends real well. He does it a lot with, like, the Inhumans stuff and the cosmic stuff with Black Bolt in them, which I might touch on a little bit later. But yeah, he really does.
And
Everything gets tied up and put
Johnny
back
Storm kind of being
together.
in control of the negative zone. Like I was like, you can't just leave that. Like how are you gonna
Yeah,
resolve this? And then the way he does it, I was like, oh, okay.
yeah.
That's funny.
I really liked how he resolved that. That was
Yeah.
actually pretty fun. But yeah, so that was my impactful moment.
Absolutely. I do want to take a second to say this because this is more of a personal thing that Ash and I have talked about a lot. So Ash, this is one of the examples of what I was talking about when, like, especially I kept referencing an interview at the time because I know you hadn't read this, but I
Hmm.
was referencing an interview at the time where Hickman was talking about, like, yeah, you can go and you can play with someone's toys and you can get pretty crazy with them, but the key thing is, like, when you're done, you got to be respectful and put the toys back where you put the toys back on the shelf where you got them from. And this is
Hmm.
kind of what one of the things that I was expecting, and while I was holding out hope, unfortunately it didn't come to fruition this time. But with this X-Men, that's why I was holding out hope. I wasn't worried about the Krakoa era because I was like, I know how Hickman wraps things up. He wraps things up with a bow. He's gonna put things back where they need to be, like, but he's going to put them back better. They will have gone through a whole
Hmm.
journey, and then when they go back, they'll be, a little more set up, but he'll be respectful and put them back where they should be. And that just
Unfortunately, they aborted Hickman in the middle. And so it's all left in turmoil and no one knows how to fix it because he's gone.
like, imagine if they booted him off of FF with all the stuff that he did. Like, imagine if they booted him off of
Yeah.
our F4. Like, that's basic, like, how crazy it would have been. It's like, who's gonna put everything back? I've got it. It'll be Leah Williams and Teeny Howard. And
Yeah.
it's like, Jerry Duggan. Jerry Duggan's gonna clean up this. No, he's not. No, he's not.
He's gonna track mud in, and he's gonna make it look sloppier than it did before.
He's gonna mop, but it's just the mud has just got pushed all over the place. It's just
He's
pushed
not even
around
mopping.
mud.
No,
No,
no, he's not. Stop
you're
it.
just spreading the mud around, Gary. Jerry, go back home. Anyway, so yes, I agree, and I wanted to share something based off of how you had wrapped it up. So the name of the epilogue of the whole thing is called Run. So,
Mm-hmm.
Franklin's in bed. They are, putting him back to sleep. And then the narration, it repeats things. And Hickman, again, going back to meditation, Hickman likes to, we've, again, people more recently have seen it in places like, Ten of Swords, where unfortunately it didn't work out as well. And it kind of came across more as lazy than tactical and planned. But he says things, he repeats themes, scenes, phrases.
Mm-hmm.
He intentionally says them multiple times to get them in your head, and he does it in a way that's not necessarily annoying and it doesn't seem petty or below us all. He does it in a way where it's like, okay, it's obvious that you're intentional because you're not saying the same thing in a different way. You're saying the same thing in the exact same way. And you may do slight changes and iterations because he's nudging you. It's like he says something and then you're like, okay. And then he says it again and you're like, oh, I'm familiar with that. I already heard that before. And he says it again, but the third time he says it the same way, but slightly different. And you're like, oh, well, I'm still comfortable with it because I know what he means. He does that to you until he gets to the end and he springs his point on you and you go along with it because you're familiar with it.
Right.
So he goes back to the door that he was mentioning earlier and he says, this door
Mm-hmm.
is more important than it appears to be. It separates who you are from who you can be.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to walk through it. You can run. And it's Leech and Franklin leaping into the universe that Franklin has created. The little tiny baby universe that he's blown up, and the older Franklin, is showing him and training him to wield his powers and his gifts. Um,
Yeah.
and I just love that. This whole issue, aside from the family elements, when it was just about Franklin, older and younger Franklin and Leech, it was all
Mm-hmm.
about imagination. It was pretty much Jonathan
Yeah.
Hickman telling us, like, hey, I loved these characters and I had things that I had been imagining about them since I was a kid. And my main thing that I brought to you was a family story, because that's what the Fantastic Four are. And then, so I brought you what was already established, but what I added to it is my imagination. And the thing about it is, I didn't walk through my imagination. I was bold. And imagination is an adventure, and I
Mm-hmm.
brought you my imagination and I brought it to you boldly. I didn't walk, I ran to the opportunity and I ran through this and I had a vigor when I brought you my imagination. And what I want you to take from it is that you shouldn't walk and tiptoe through your imagination. You should leap into it. Go ahead and run.
Yeah, that
Loved
was
it.
actually, besides the whole, his saying goodbye and everything, that was probably the second most impactful spot of that issue for me. It's like where he's talking to Franklin and he's like, yeah, yeah, they're talking about Val and how smart and intelligent that she is. But he's like, but you know what? It's also like being smart is good and all, but you're creating a universe. Creativity is, you know, in, at least for Franklin, it's far more valuable than super smart, super intelligent. Just that being bold, having that imagination. And you even see like they do all these different panels with all these crazy things. I'm just like, I want a whole issue for each one of these little scenarios they come up with, like vampire teachers on motorcycles in a Herbie apocalypse, or dinosaurs and cowboys versus, like, just all this wild imaginative stuff. And he's right. Being creative is not something that you can just like think yourself into. Like, it's not something intelligence can solve. So
Right.
I liked it because, think about it, it's a Future Foundation book, but who is the one kid that's featured that isn't in the Future Foundation class? It's Franklin. he's
Yep.
he's not super smart like the rest of them. He goes to a normal school. Adult Franklin, in one of the earlier issues, like drives him to a normal school, and he's telling him, okay, you're going to go to school with this one. This girl's going to pick on you. This guy's going to do this. He goes to a normal school. So I like how in this last issue, Hickman's saying, listen, being smart is great and all, but Franklin, he's got his own merits and he's this super creative, imaginative kid. And I like how he spends this last issue on the kid that's not even in the Future Foundation because he's just got such, like, I don't know, such opportunity, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved that scene too. He was running down his future. He's like, "Yeah, you feel this way about school, but what you don't realize is you're gonna be friends with them, and you're and that person that you think you're annoyed with, like this is how this is gonna work out." And he's like, "Yeah,
Yep.
oh, do you see that girl? I hate that girl." And he was like, "You know what? I can't tell you everything. I gotta leave some things to mystery." That was a really good touch. My favorite moment. You know what? I'm not gonna make it. Usually I go pretty heavy. I'm not gonna make it super heavy. I'm gonna make it fun. So my favorite moment is a little scene where the Future Foundation, they were having class, and Reed Richards was trying to teach the children about the gosh, like the different races and stuff that is in their solar system. Well, in their, like, right outside of their solar system, or within their solar system, but right outside of like what kids get taught in school, pretty much, like the Badoon and all these other different races and stuff like that. And the technology on the roof where they're like seeing stars and all of the generated images that Reed is talking about, it goes black. And it's and and the and the kids, and I remember the Moloids, they're like, "Are you sure it's not the technology? Are you sure that that it's just not us that have gone blind?" Hold on, wait 1 second.
That's a
Oh no.
different story, which was very close to being my moment.
Oh,
But
it
I'm
was.
gonna let you.
Oh, that other one that it went to. Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
it wasn't so
Yeah,
much
you were just on it
impactful.
where the Moloid's like, ah, we've gone blind.
All right, so
What a
let me
You
go.
had
ridiculous
that
Let me
first,
conjecture.
go.
and
Vic,
then you
you can
changed to
see
a
me.
different panel. There it is.
There we go. All right. So yeah, he's like, oh, dang it! It keeps cutting to the other one. Hold on.
That's
I
There
also
it
a
keep,
is.
fun
Oh,
scene.
I keep
oh.
jumping. Sorry. Let me go
You
back to
go
the
from
other
the
view.
scene to another good scene to a fun scene.
There, oh, man, because there was so many. It was hard to. It really was like this one because it was a lot of like single panels. There, I mean, there was really good stuff to where I was like, oh yeah, this whole part of the story, I want to take this. But to me, this time around, there was just like a bunch of really good, just individual panels that really stood out to me. Okay, here we go. Let me go over to. Oh no, this was the one where John. This is it was the one where yeah, they had to put the toys back in the box for the negative zone, and Johnny
Right.
was like he had to go deal with democracy. He got voted out of being the leader. Like he got 42
Takes the
votes and
kids with
everybody
him.
else. Yeah.
He
He
takes
takes
the
the kids
kids.
with him.
He's like, you guys are going to get a lesson in butt kicking 101. And they're like, butt kicking 101 just became like civil rights or democracy. How boring.
Yeah, it got turned into a political science class like really fast, which was funny. Now I can't see. Look, now I can't even. Just when I thought that Comixology, aka Kindle Online, had completely cured itself, now it's jumping all around on me.
Yeah, if you use the web version of it, it is slow and laggy. So you gotta be careful when you can click too much because you're like, ah, it's not working, and then it catches up a few seconds later.
Yeah, and then you're like 10 pages way past where you thought you were
Yep.
going to be. Okay. I think I'm almost there. See, I thought it got faster. I'm glad that they added the guided view back, but I thought it also got faster too. But apparently not yet. That's unfortunate. Here we go. So yeah, it's going out. Of course, Bentley's the first person to talk about how like it's broken or it's some lame old Stark tech. And then the Moloid kids get up and he's like, "Oh, what if I've gone blind?" And then the other one, I forget his name. I think it's Core. He's like, "What ridiculous conjecture, Meek? I can see you. You can you see me?" He's like, "Are you still a beautiful yellow love slug, Core? If so, the Ben be praised. I can see again."
But then be praised.
The Ben be praised because Ben is the because the thing is like their god. You know, they like they worship him anyway. He's not really their god, but bro, I couldn't take it.
man.
I was like, I just love the jokes, but I couldn't get over the "Are you still a beautiful yellow love slug, Core? If so, the Ben be praised. I can see again." I was like, oh my
But then
gosh.
he says, but then he's like, "Be careful! Don't stare too long into the stunning visage, or you may lose your sight."
So Corey just asserts his radiant beauty. You know, he backs up he backs up Meek in his compliments. It was just
my
too
God.
cute to me, man. I stayed on this one panel for so long, just chuckling, just laughing, just living in the innocence, these innocent, comic book moments. We don't get a whole lot of these where it's just kids. Usually it's adults talking and there's some edgy, serious situation. The world needs to be saved or somebody needs to be punched or there's a bad guy that a good guy wants to shoot. And right here it's just beautiful yellow love slugs and praising the Ben, and I just loved it. So that's my moment as it is. Sorry, I didn't come with a more serious one, but I do have more serious ones to share a little later on when we get to the free for all. But Ash, what do you have? What you got?
Well, you sort of did share one of the ones already that I kind of really liked, and that
Mm-hmm.
was they're in the uh, when they're in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You guys already talked about it, but I didn't get a chance to comment. Um, and they're having a snack break,
Yes.
and we get to see. I'm not sure if it's actually really Val or just sort of a or just like some sort of incarnation that's created by Frank, who's older Franklin, and and Franklin is like, You should." He's telling younger Franklin, "You should, bring your friends here sometime." He's like, "Nah, they'd probably think it's dumb. I know Val would." I think it's around page 150 ish.
Okay, I got
Yeah,
Um,
you.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
I don't have any of this set up, so there's no use blowing my avatar up. And and a manifestation of her, like a ghost form or whatever, because they're in the closet, and she makes a comment like, "I'm nothing compared to you, Franklin." And that's when older Franklin tells him, he's like, "When she tells you that, it'll confuse you. You won't understand. You get older, you'll start to figure it out, and she'll help you. You see, Franklin, without imagination, sorry, intelligence without imagination is pretty much useless.
Mm.
Creating is harder than knowing. And
Mm-hmm.
you have the ability to see things in other ways, in ways others cannot." And then he's like, "Huh? Oh, wow." And he's just like looking over her shoulder, and she's like, "What is it, Franklin? What do you see?" "Dinos, dinosaur cowboys and Jello knights," which is harkening back to the beginning when he's like, can we do the adventure with the dinosaurs, the cowboys, and the Jello knights?" And I like you like he echoes back on these things, and it's a really cool way, like how they illustrate, like she can't see that, like her mind can't go there. She may be super smart, she can know things, but she can't see what isn't there. And I thought it was a really cool way to establish almost like the yin yang between Franklin and Val,
Yeah.
and why just being super smart doesn't actually, it's a cool thing, like it can have value, but it's not the all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in this world think like if you're smart, you're better, and if you're dumb, then you're worse. And it's like there's a lot more value to humanity than just your straight up intelligence. And not even all intelligence is the same. Some people have like a mathematical mind. Some people just have like raw memory, like they can just recall things. But they're not actually smart. They can just hold a lot of info, which makes them appear smart. Anyways, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but the real thing, because I'm cheating here, because I didn't get to comment on that and I wanted to, around page 80-ish, and this is a short one, so it won't steal too much time, um, is the one, and it's going back to um, Val again. And man, I gotta tell you, Hickman completely changed my mind on Val. I thought I hated this character. Um, and it's where she's sitting in her bed with with um,
Bentley.
Bentley,
Yep.
and he's munching on chips and whatever. And she's like, "It's not my problem if you can't see all the moving pieces, Bentley, and don't get crumbs on my bed." And then all of a sudden, the door opens, and it's older Val. And again, like the eyes, man, tell the story here. Um, and she's just like looking down, like it's harder probably to see if your page isn't big. Um, maybe you can do panel by panel on that second panel page, right? Um, where she's just like staring down, and it's like that, they just they have that like rivalry, just like at each other, and then go to the next panel, and you can see again, it's all stories told in the eyes. Um, where little Val's like, forget how to knock. Next panel, you scoot, and Bentley's like, okay, no problem, I'm out of here. And then next panel, uh, well, what do you want? Now you can see a little bit of apprehension in her eyes because older Val has asserted that dominance. And again, this younger Val, she's only 3. It's like she may be super smart. She's still a kid. She's like, what do you want? Hag. And she like pause. And go to the next page. Well, that depends on what day is this. Oh, it's Thursday, the 12th. And what time is it? 8:37. Smack. Ow! Why did you? And delete it. And don't make me come back here. She's just like, because she knows exactly what she was doing, like exactly at what time. So now she's got to.
She's like coming up with a
how to
plan,
defeat and subjugate the Korean Empire. And she's just like, delete, sigh. And that's the end of that. And it was just such a moment that made me like just giggle inside, and it was just so perfectly executed. And I've said this many times before, there's sometimes where Hickman, I think, tries to be too funny and he's not, but then there's times when he nails it, and I gotta give him credit. And this, I just love. And Dragata gave him a ton of help. Like I said, Dragata's art sold it for me. Just the expressions in every single panel. Just the evil glares at each other. Total what's the term? The cattiness of the two with each other. This was my secondary moment, I guess, if you will. This is one of the moments that stood out.
Absolutely. No, that was a great one. That was actually one of the ones that I was like thinking about sharing, just because of like I just loved how like older Val just came and laid down law, and younger Val's like, I got no way around this. She's me, but older and better,
right.
And I'm 3. Like, I just have to take the L. Like, I'm deleting it. There's no way around it.
The Kree live to fight another day.
yes, they do. So into the story. Now, that was a really good one. All really good moments. There's plenty of other ones in there. I'll rifle off just a few, and not to get in depth, but when Peter was when in the very first story, when they were getting all wild, and Johnny Storm ended up dancing with Mary Jane, and Peter was it was so funny. Like, and then Peter was dancing with that space lady, the one that was from the Light Brigade,
Yeah, the one who looks like Yondu. Yeah.
Yeah, and she got all up on him and like pulled him in for a kiss, and everybody was like, "Oh, what?" Even later on in the issue when Johnny is talking to Mary Jane, and she's like, basically they're talking about Peter in front of Peter, and Peter's like all hungover, sitting on the couch, falling all over the place. I just love when Johnny's like, "No, no, no, you hit the jackpot." It's like, only Johnny Storm would turn around one of like the coolest, like, you know most lovingest kind of sexy phrases that's in the Marvel universe. Like only Johnny Storm can turn it back around on the lady that says it. That was
He
really
says before
good.
too. I love what he's like. No, no, no. Tigers don't cuddle, but maybe I could because I'm a
'Cause I'm a
lion.
lion. I was like, oh, Hickman, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
So
This
good.
this scene or this section in that book had, in my opinion, the best page turn
Yes.
when
Hmm.
when uh when the horse lord guy or whatever, it's like, bring me the camel, and he's like pouring the thing and he's telling what it is, and then Johnny's just like, he's all drunk or whatever, and he's just like shoots it down and he like breathes fire, and then Peter, you can see again because Dragata sells it, you
Mm-hmm.
can see the drunkenness in his eyes, and he's just like, has
Yep.
a kick, and he's doing the little finger pinch, and then the guy's like, it's your turn, houseboy, drink. And to which Peter's like, oh man, take care of Aunt May for me. Here we go. And he
I love
chucks
that
it
line
down, and
too.
then you
He's like,
turn the
Johnny, take
page,
care.
and it's like the hangover. Like it's
Yep.
just Peter's like, ah, and you see fast forward, they're flying down the road in a Ferrari and getting in bar fights, and it's
You
it's
can
just
literally hear a Pitbull song in the
yeah.
background blaring as this is going on.
I don't know why it was so absurd. Like it should not have worked, but it did for me. Like I just,
It was just
I'm
so
looking at the
funny.
pages again. I'm just laughing. Like that paged flip when you turn for him, just the last panel's him taking a shot, he's chugging it down, and then boom, his eyes
And then
is
it's
like,
him with a tie around
ah,
his head,
yeah,
just
Yeah.
he's
standing
got a
up in a
tie around his
car.
head.
And then
He's like,
later, like,
woo!
and then remember, like, he goes there, like, he has to go up to Adeline, like, with the Fantastic Four as Spider-Man in, like, the white Future Foundation
Mhm.
suit. He gets around her again, and she's all sniffing
Yep.
him, and she's like, you smell like an Earth boy I kissed, one with a big juicy butt." And he's like, "It's definitely not me," because like she met Peter, she did, and she's
Right.
like, "No, no, no, no. It's you. It's definitely you. I can tell it's you. And I can tell because of that butt." I'm just like, oh my. Later, he's over talking to Johnny. He's like, "It's not really that big, is it?" It was so funny because like, he's the Nightwing of Marvel. Like if you want to look at it like some male cakes, like DC, it's Nightwing. On Marvel side is Peter Parker because they got that skin tight suit on and no cape. So I just like how Hickman called that out and just the way that he used it. It was really funny. But anyway, all right. Well, so many moments, so many individual scenes. We got to wrap it all up now, and only to get ready for it should be, if it's not next, it should be next week. But next week when we do the free for all and we talk about it, and we got our special guest, and it'll be interesting. So, closing thoughts, Twin.
Uh, wow. I mean, dang, even just talking about that Peter Parker Johnny Storm issue has me wanting to go back and reread it. I mean, it's just these stories. I mean, we talked about the Fantastic Four, his last Fantastic Four issues last week, and how they're mostly like little self-contained stories. These are, some of them are like that. Some of them tie in to, like, so the one with Bentley and Wizard ties in. He does a really good job of that. It kind of, some of the stories fall in the same timeline, like when they go to Wakanda and it ties with the Fantastic. So Hickman, in closing up this run, he's also tying it into what he was doing in the Fantastic. Hickman just handles everything just like really, really well, and it makes me just sad for most writers at Marvel that they don't wrap things up or organize stuff as neatly as Hickman does. Uh, it's just so well done. It's a great ending. He leaves stuff open enough to where we know he's going to continue certain storylines and certain characters are going to appear and come back as he goes into his Avengers and New Avengers and Infinity and down the road. But yeah, just what a way to wrap it up. And man, yeah, Future Foundation is it's just been a blast. These little kid characters that before I didn't give a second thought to, except for maybe Franklin and Val. But like Bentley, oh, this kid, oh, I'm not gonna care. He's not gonna be a big deal. Or these Moloid kids, like what Dragon Man? No. Now I'm like, dude, this is like a perfect cast. Like they could do a cartoon of this class, and it would be if it was done right, it would be bonkers on Disney Plus. But yeah, it's just such a great way to wrap up a run. And I love, like I said, that last issue that ends with Franklin. Just so much positivity, I guess. So much heart that comes from that. But you know, you're talking about like what you were talking about, Ash, how like creativity and intelligence and how they have this dynamic, the yin yang kind of it all. Just really, really well done. Can't think and say and highly enough of this. So.
Right on. For me, the whole series, the whole run, yeah, it's just special. It stands out, in a special way. It's so talked about and so acclaimed and so loved for the love and the reverence that Jonathan Hickman put into the characters, put into the plot, put into the story. And I love that he had a vision and, he marched on and kept it going. But the rest of the books, they are grand and they are big and they are, mind blowing, but they don't always have the heart that this does, and not always as often, but they are weighty and they are heavy, and there are plenty of heartfelt things that do go on. But yeah, this is a special little part of it, and we just got to cherish it for what it is. I don't know when we'll ever get another run that gives us the ride that this does, or similar. Not that we won't have better, and surely there'll be many worse, but it was just a special time, and it was nice to go through it with three folks this time, or two folks this time, and share all of that. And thank you, Jonathan Hickman. Thank you, Nick Dragata. Thank you, Del Eaglesham, and everybody really that filled in. Paul Mounts on colors, and so many people that contributed to this story, because it really was special, and your work is still being talked about and revered, and will be adapted into film because it already has been. So I know it shall continue. Ash?
Oh, I don't know what to add to that. Uh, I This was a fine ending to a fantastic story. Um, it was too short, in my opinion, but I'm so glad to have gotten what we did. And I can credit Jonathan Hickman for taking a lifelong Fantastic Four skeptic and making me a true believer. So, yeah.
True believers indeed. Believers we all are in the fact and the statement that all hope lies in doom. Everything dies, but all hope lies in doom. And that is not the end of how impactful that line and truth is.
Nope.
Everybody, thank you for going on the journey with us. We have wrapped up all of our reading for Future Foundation, Fantastic Four. Excited to have done it with y'all. Excited that 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 we read it in this way. Thank you for everybody who tuned in, watched with us live on twitch.tv/skipandtosh. If you're watching the VODs on YouTube, appreciate it. Next week, hopefully next week, we will we will have our guest. Our guest said that they need a little time for preparation, so we're going to try to give them that. And if they need a little extra time, we may get creative and do something a little different next week. You'll have to tune in to
This
find
must be
out.
a really special guest.
I think when the guest gets here, I think you will.
I don't get extra time if I need extra time.
Well, you're not this guest, so
I know. I'm just saying. That's what I'm saying. It must be someone special.
This might be the specialist guest, the most special of the guests. So that, yeah,
I'm
this
the special
guest
needs guest.
You're the guest to the special guest.
Oh, that was a good one, Ash. That was a good one. Yes, yeah, you're a special guest to the special guest, and I don't know if we'll get a guest more special than this for these line of stories that we're talking about. But hey, that's
Very
all
nice.
right. More things to come. Anyhow, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. However you did, thank you for following along, and we will let you know when to start the next book so you can read along with us. If you are, if not. If you don't mind having things spoiled, I don't mind spoiling for you. Tune in, take the ride, or as Hunter S. Thompson said, buy the ticket, take the ride. That's my twin. That's Ash, Von Comics. I'm Skip. We're out. Peace.
Peace.
Later.